You've probably been in this situation before. You want to visit a website that's a little questionable, or look up something you definitely don't want other people seeing later. So naturally, your brain goes straight to one thing: incognito mode. You open that dark window and suddenly it feels like you've turned into a digital ghost, completely invisible to the world. Nice try. But I'm sorry to say, that dark screen doesn't make you invisible, it just makes you feel invisible. Everybody can still tell it's you. So let's clear up the myth and talk about what incognito mode is actually doing behind that little spy icon. So what does incognito mode actually do? In simple terms, it keeps this session from being saved on your device. It does not store your browsing history. It clears cookies when you close the tabs. It does not save what you typed into forms. And once the session ends, websites usually log you out. At that point, a lot of people think, all right, that means no trace. Not exactly. Because incognito is mainly local privacy, not network privacy, and that difference matters a lot more than most people realize. Now, here's what incognito mode is completely useless at. It doesn't hide you from your internet provider. It doesn't hide you from your boss if you're on the company Wi-Fi. And the websites you visit, they can still see you just fine. If you thought you'd vanished, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're still standing dead center in the spotlight. You're not a ghost, you're just a guy standing in the dark, thinking no one can see him because he closed his eyes. The lights are still on, and everyone is watching. So who can still see what you do? First, your internet provider. They can still see which websites you visit. To them, incognito mode mostly just means you're browsing through a darker looking window. The small comfort is that they usually see the domain you visited, not every single thing you did once you got there. So they may know you went to YouTube, but not necessarily whether you were watching dating advice or a horror clip at 2 in the morning. Next, your school or workplace. If you're on their Wi-Fi, they can often see that traffic too, including the kind of search you really would not want showing up in the wrong place, like how to get her into bed. Then there are the websites themselves. They do not need cookies to get clues about who you are. Through things like browser fingerprinting, they can often tell that the same browser has come back again by looking at details like your screen size, fonts, browser version, and device setup. And the real problem is this: once a site can keep recognizing the same browser, it can keep linking your visits together. That means incognito may not stop a site from personalizing prices, limiting free articles, showing targeted recommendations, or building a profile of your behavior over time. So even if your browser looks clean on your end, the website may still see a familiar visitor. And then there's Google. If you use Chrome, this part matters. Google says incognito does not save your activity to your browser history or automatically tie it to your Google account, but that only goes so far. The moment you open an incognito tab and then sign into Gmail, YouTube, Facebook, or anything else, a lot of that separation starts to disappear. At that point, you are not exactly hiding anymore. In fact, in 2024, Google settled a major lawsuit in which plaintiffs had sought at least $5 billion in damages, and the company agreed to delete billions of data records tied to users' private browsing activity. So while users thought incognito meant they were off the grid, Google was still collecting data in the background, tracking where people went online and learning more than most users realized. Turns out, the spy guy was working for the other side. So yes, that dark window does erase some local traces, but in a lot of ways it is still more of a cleanup tool than a cloak. For all the privacy confusion, incognito mode is still genuinely useful in a few everyday situations. For flights and hotels, it will not magically unlock secret prices, but it does give you a clean session, which can help when you want to compare results without old cookies or previous searches shaping what you see. It is also great when you need to split your online life in 2 or 3. You can stay signed into your main account, your backup account, and even that ancient email you forgot still existed, all in the same browser without constantly logging in and out. Trying to read an article but keep hitting a paywall? On some sites, incognito can reset a cookie-based article limit. On plenty of others, it will not help at all. Still, every now and then, it works. It can also save you from awkward moments when you are buying a surprise gift. You probably do not want engagement ring ads showing up the next day while your partner is using your laptop. And this is where Incognito really earns its keep. Shared computers at school, the library, or a hotel business center. Instead of worrying about signing out of every account one by one, you open an incognito window, do what you need to do, and when you are done, closing it clears out the session. Clean exit. No random stranger opening the browser after you and landing in your inbox. Alright, but what if you want more real privacy? The kind where fewer companies can watch what you're doing. And to be clear, that is not just for people doing something shady. Sometimes you are checking your bank account on public Wi-Fi. Sometimes you are researching a medical issue you do not want turned into ad targeting for the next 2 weeks. Sometimes you are messaging a source, handling work documents, or just trying to keep your personal life from being vacuumed into another giant data profile. In those moments, incognito is not enough. You need better tools. A VPN is one of the first steps. It can hide your traffic from your internet provider, which means your ISP cannot easily see and profile the sites you visit, but it does not make you invisible. It shifts trust from your ISP to the VPN company, so picking a good provider matters. You can also switch to a browser with more privacy-friendly defaults like Brave or Firefox to cut down on some of the tracking that happens in the background. And instead of using Google for everything, you can use a search engine like DuckDuckGo so your searches are not constantly feeding into one giant profile of your habits, interests, and late-night curiosity. If you want to go even further, there is Tor. That gives you much stronger anonymity, but it also comes with a price. It can be slow enough to make modern internet feel weirdly ancient. And that is the trade-off nobody loves talking about. The more privacy you want, the more inconvenience usually comes with it. Privacy tools reduce exposure. They do not make you magically untraceable. So here's the reality. Incognito mode is not ghost mode. It is basically a local cleanup tool. It is useful when you are borrowing a laptop, using a shared computer, or just keeping your own browser history tidy. But that dark screen is not a cloak. It clears traces from your device, while plenty of signals can still exist everywhere else. If you want stronger privacy, you need better tools and better habits, not just a darker browser window. So no, incognito mode is not some magic invisibility button. It is more like wiping your fingerprints off your own desk while security cameras are still rolling. Now I want to hear from you. Before watching this, what did you think incognito actually did? Leave your answer in the comments. I have a feeling a lot of us were told one story and got a very different reality. Subscribe if you want more videos that make the internet make a little more sense.